Today is June 25th, and today marks 71 years since the Korean War first broke out on June 25th, 1950. And of course, as we know, the Korean War really devastated the peninsula. But there are souls that we should always remember. More than 40,000 people from 30 different countries died during the war. And in commemoration, today we have prepared a special interview. We've invited Hannah Kim, who has been on a special mission for Korean War veterans. She is the founder of Remember 727 and the official ambassadress of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation. So let's welcome Hannah to the program. Hi, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me, and well, I don't know if I should say happy, but I know it's June 25th anniversary of the start of the war today in Korea.
Indeed, it is, of course, a day for commemoration. So, first, can you tell us what work you've been doing on behalf of Korean War veterans?
Sure. I founded Remember 727 back in 2008, the year I first held a commemoration at the Korean War Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. I came to Washington in 2007, and as a grad student, when I first visited the Korean War Memorial, I was extremely sad and almost embarrassed and ashamed that as both a Korean and American, I knew nothing about this war. That's
Ah,
why it's called the Forgotten War, that more than 40,000 died from all around the world, and just like 36,000 in America alone. And the fact that this war still hasn't ended
mm,
really devastated me. And I thought, my young, idealistic self, I thought, what can I do? And I still to this day say I'm not the one who knows how or when this war will end, but what I can do is help people remember, so that we
yes.
can all think about, and maybe even be inspired to act upon it, to advocate for peace on the Korean Peninsula.
Ah, well, thank you for sharing the backstory of the foundation. But can you tell us about your extensive travels to personally meet with veterans? I'm sure you've had so many special experiences, but can you tell us a little bit about your travel and your experience with meeting the veterans?
Sure. So I lobbied a congressman, a Korean War veteran named Charles Rangel, to pass a bill that made in America July 27th official day to honor Korean War veterans. And
Mm-hmm.
became his communications director and chief of staff. But when he retired, I decided that I would visit every single country that participated in the Korean War, including the other side of Russia, China, and North Korea, to
Ah,
really understand this war and to see it from a different perspective. And to this day, when I think about the veterans that I met, and I met more than 1,200 all around the world and
mm-hmm.
every single state, all 50 plus four US territories,
Wow.
I only shed tears because, number one, I mean, I want to go thank them and these 할아버지s, right? I call them
Right.
my grandpas.
Mm-hmm.
And I always joke, I said, I'm not calling you grandpa because you're old, but because if you didn't fight in Korea almost 70 years ago, I
Mm.
literally would be here. And not a single one. I mean, everyone cried. And you know what? They thanked me for coming to thank them and for remembering them.
Ah.
And yeah, so I would like to urge everyone listening today, you don't have to travel the world to thank them like me, but if you can just pause and reflect. And in Busan, it's so special. You're so special there because the United Nations memorial.
The
I mean,
cemetery, yes, is here.
exactly. It's in Busan, and it's the only one in the entire world. And all of
Right.
you have, you know, I feel like you guys are the guardians of that sanctuary where you can,
Ah.
yes, to honor them and their sacrifices forever etched in our hearts and memories.
Great point that you make that we have the opportunity as residents right here in Busan to pay our respects and, of course, condolences as well. But today, of course, is June 25th here, Korea time. And I wonder if, you can share with our listeners some of the stories, maybe just a couple that you've heard from these war veterans.
I always think of Colombian veteran that went
Yes.
to Colombia, which was the only country in South America that went to Korean fought. And,
Ah.
many actually lied about their age and volunteered, enlisted,
Mm.
when they were 15 and 16, because, when you're young, number one, it's almost an adventure. And number two, at the time, it was right after World War II. So many young people around the world were inspired by the heroism of World War II veterans. And so they also wanted to fight for the cause of freedom.
Yes.
And I remember abuelito, grandpa,
Mm.
he got shot in the face, and he came back and he had more than 17 reconstructive surgeries on his face. And you would
Ah.
think that someone like that would be bitter about having served in Korea.
Mm.
But instead of harboring any resentment, he was so grateful that he made it out alive.
Mm.
And in fact, he spent his own money to build a plaque that honored, more than 100 of his fellow soldiers who never made it back. So that really puts a perspective into how young people, we take, so many things for granted. We complain about many things, but here, this individual whose face was still disfigured when I went to see him, he was just full of gratitude. And he,
Yes.
again, like many other veterans, he cried and he thanked me. He said it was worth it because me going there to thank him,
Mm.
made him feel very special.
Oh, Hannah, thank you for sharing that special story with our listeners. And as we try to commemorate once again the beginning of the Korean War, and of course, we still are technically are at war, how can we, in your opinion, show our appreciation for the sacrifice and the bravery of Korean War veterans from obviously from all around the world, not just the Korean soldiers?
Yeah, so this year, I'm so sorry. This year I'm launching so after my world tour or journey, I just felt so overwhelmed with love. And I said,
Mm.
oh my God, I need to share this experience with everybody. And so, this I'm together with the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, we
Okay.
are launching today, Korea time today, a worldwide photo, essay, and video contest where
Mm.
people can submit, photos or videos on the theme of the Korean War, how remembering the veterans, honoring, and also divided family members. The
Yes.
Korean War separated 10 million Korean families who have yet to meet their loved ones in North Korea. And of course, there's like the missing MIA soldiers, the POW, and just like how maybe we can we can usher in an era of peace on the peninsula.
Mm.
So listeners could visit remember727.com, com, and enter for a chance to win up to $2,000. That's the grand prize,
Mm. Yes,
And
yes.
the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to compel. I mean, we live in such a heavy, like, photo video, right, driven
Yes.
society. So I thought of, well, how do you make a very difficult topic like war and peace kind of more relatable and accessible?
Mm.
And I thought, wait, since everybody posts photos and videos on social media, maybe this is just as simple as posting a photo and then, or a
Mm.
video.
Yes.
And but it just does make all of us pause and think, wow, something grand happened. And when I say grand, I'm talking about in scale. It wasn't
Mm.
just the war, between North and South Korea. I mean, like the global community came to fight for us. So I think
Yes.
the least we can do is just to remember them.
Great point. So, thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing and for sharing your passion about how we should remember, of course, all the veterans that served during the Korean War. So, thank you so much for joining us today on this very special day.
Thank you so much for having me. And everyone can visit remember727.com and find more information.
All right. Take care. And once again, thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Yes, so today we are, of course, marking 71 years since the Korean War first broke out on June 25th, 1950. And as Hannah pointed out, we are special. Right here in Busan, we have the only UN cemetery in the world. So let's make sure that we do pay a visit, that we pause, as she says, to make sure that we are remembering, of course, all the sacrifices that they made.